What's up? Hello, welcome to the Weekenders. This is the show where we talk about the biggest football games coming up over the weekend. It's your boy Max here with Lexi and Bobby. And how's everybody feeling today?
Feeling great. Good weekend of football. So
Hey, speak for yourself. I'm currently living in a world where Texas is back, and I don't know how to deal with this. I haven't had to deal with the Texas being good since I was a young boy, back in like middle school. So pretty tough stuff over here.
Yeah, I kind of know how that feels. Like, this is a really supposed to be, as a UNC fan, like having to deal with the potential of Florida State and Miami both being back. Like,
And
really
Duke.
sucks. And Duke kind of being decent, like, really sucks. Like, it's tough. Not gonna lie, really like hard to pick our lineup this week because the college football games are not great. The NFL games are a little bit better, but college was a little tough. But let's talk about the NFL real quick for a second. We did have just get past week one. Lots of stuff happened in just 1 week of football. So we did this last week with week one of college football. So for week one of the NFL, I want everyone to give their week one overreaction.
this team's winning the Super Bowl. The Detroit Lions, baby. That's my week one overreaction. But no, it was great. So that's gonna be definitely what I'm riding into the sunset for as long as I can. That's it for me.
Typical Lexi, just going with a complete homer take. I'm a more
Because it's an
rational.
overreaction.
I'm a more rational mind. I'm a more rational mind, so I can fully say with 100%, non-bias that Baker Mayfield is back. He's winning the MVP. He's winning the comeback player of the year. Just lock it. It's set. Complete intellectual, no bias whatsoever. We are so back. We are so back.
No tie to Oklahoma whatsoever. He's just a random guy. No,
I have no tie to Tampa Bay.
I like that because he's had this chip for a while. So good for him pulling that win off.
Yeah, that was a big win. I mean, I don't know. Like, if I'm a Vikings fan, I'm like embarrassed because the Buccaneers are supposed to be like, battling out with the Cardinals for Caleb Williams and Drake May. So to lose that game, that's kind of tough. I mean, there's a lot of things I can overreact to in week one of the NFL. I'm just going to stick with one of my predictions was the Browns were going to be a playoff team this year. They whooped the Bengals. So my overreaction is not really overreaction. It's just doubling down on what I think will happen, and that the Browns will be a playoff team. Not that like I love to root for the Browns or anything like that, but the Bengals kind of looked really bad. The Ravens didn't look great against the Texans, so the Steelers also looked terrible. Like, so I think if you are out in Cleveland, like you're feeling like the Browns maybe can make some noise in the AFC North. So, that was an interesting week one for that division. Okay, another big NFL topic is Aaron Rodgers, obviously out for the season. It was confirmed before we recorded this podcast that he will be out for the season with an Achilles tear, which is terrible. One of the worst injuries, I think, in sports is the Achilles. Really hard to come back from that, especially if you are pushing 40 as Aaron Rodgers is. And so now the question that everyone is asking is Aaron Rodgers going to come back after he recovers? I mean, I saw some reporters saying that it would be a surprise if he was available for the beginning of training camp next year. So for a guy that was, admitted that he contemplated retiring last year in Green Bay, it kind of seems like coming back next year to play for a team that, I know he was excited for this year, but he doesn't really owe the Jets anything, So what do you guys think? Do you think Aaron Rodgers hangs it up?
No way. I think he contemplated it, but he's like he said in his kind of interview before the whole Monday night game is that he's way too competitive of a guy. He bought into the Jets. He bought in being ready to start somewhere new, and you think he's just going to walk away. I mean, I hope to God, and everyone knows in the show, and I'm pretty sure everyone on social media, that I don't like Aaron Rodgers, but I don't want him to go out like this. He is way too much of the Hall of Fame quarterback that put my team through hell for too many years to just walk off the field. Now, being 38 and this happening, it's not good. So, but do I think that someone like him can overcome the odds and be back next season? Absolutely.
I mean, I think he's going to try to fight against the dying embers of his career, but I mean, even if he makes a recovery where he can play football, he's just not. He's just not going to be the same quarterback again. He's not going to be the same player again. He'll never be the same athlete again. It's a hard enough injury for a young person to come back from, but at his age, it's just it's not likely. Just frankly, that he'll be at that level. And it's sad. It's a really tough way for his career to end, probably. And I'll say this: his career probably isn't over. We'll see him again, but we won't see Aaron Rodgers again, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
Yeah, I kind of I agree with what both of you have said. Um, I could see him retiring because again, like he was so he seemed excited about the season, but he was also you're also talking about being a few months away from considering that. And again, like he does, you can't help the fact that you're injured. You don't owe the Jets anything at all. Like it can happen, but I'm a glass half full kind of guy. And if I'm a Jets fan, I'm like, all right, we make the most of this season with the schedule and everything like that. And Zach Wilson now at quarterback, it will be very hard to win a lot of games. Looking at it again, glass half full, the Jets have a chance to, they're going to play hard. They're not going to tank. We know that. Their team's still really good. But if you win, let's say 5, 6, 7 games, like you're still in sort of a good spot to get another blue chip player in the draft. And then, Rogers Hills, he's available by week 1 of next year. Like you got even more help around an Aaron Rodgers Jets team next year. Now maybe he isn't Aaron Rodgers, that won MVPs in Green Bay, but you do have a chance to, get an offensive lineman or a receiver or whatever you need to help and hopefully make a run next year. I will say that um, it's it's it has to be like gutting for that team, like with all the expectations and all the excitement and everything like that. But and so I think they're going to fight each and every week. But if you're looking on the bright side, like at least you can, go into the draft. They don't have to give away their first round pick because, as it's been reported, the first round pick to Green Bay was conditional on if Aaron Rodgers played 65% of the snaps. Obviously, he won't. So Green Bay gets a second round pick from the Jets instead of a first rounder. So you have your first rounder next year, and again, you can go out get a really good player in the draft if you don't win a lot of games. And next year, you have more talent around Aaron Rodgers, and hopefully he can stay healthy for 1 year, and you see how it goes. So tough break for those fans, but
I want to give
Yeah.
the Jets props though for fighting back and winning that game. That is a
yeah,
team that was clearly not built only around Aaron Rodgers. What Salah's got going on there, that is a really, really solid culture that I think, I mean, that team set up for the future, Rodgers or not.
yeah. Great defense. Really exciting players on the offensive side of the ball. Like, yeah, Bobby, you might be right. I mean, you could. Yeah, well, I think there's gonna be a lot to talk about towards the end of the year with that team, but they definitely have a lot. I think that there's more in their future for sure. I agree with you. Last topic before we get into the games, Alabama, as Bobby alluded to earlier, obviously showed the world that Texas is back by losing by double digits at home, something that you can't really imagine even saying about any Alabama team in the Nick Saban era, and so it has happened. Lexi and I both like Texas in this game, um, and I think the reason kind of that I was hesitant was mostly like, yeah, Quinn Ewers, but like I was for me like Jalen Milroe was a big question mark, and that kind of came to fruition in the game with the mistakes he made. But Alabama did a lot of other things. It wasn't all on Milroe. They had uncharacteristic penalties. Texas had a good game plan. Ewers was doing things that we didn't normally see him do in other games. So Texas got a statement win, but now the question is Alabama. What does their future look like this year and beyond? So uh, the question I have is Alabama cooked? You guys can interpret that however you want, but let's talk about it. Like, what does Alabama look like from here on out?
I mean, all empires fall. There has never been a college football program that has had an empire start and it just never goes away. It always falls at one point, and I just think I think it's just kind of done, because what's going on in college football has even the playing field across the board. Uh, Georgia is doing what Alabama did, at the peak of what Alabama was doing. It feels like you have 5 stars going to Texas A&M and being, just kind of completely useless. So it's like the amount of talent that is out there has been separated. They're still very talented. They're still winning a lot of, recruiting battles and all that, but it's different. The parity at the top has just kind of just dissipated. And it feels like Alabama just isn't going to have that zip anymore. Everyone caught up. You could see it physically against in that game against Texas. Alabama doesn't get bullied often, but that Alabama defense, those athletes they have, even though they're young, absolutely showed that they're on par with that Alabama team. And it's just they don't have that advantage anymore. They aren't the bullies anymore because everybody else grew up. And that's just how college football works. It was a really good run from Saban, and I might be proven wrong. It's Nick Saban. If you're in the business of doubting Nick Saban, you've lost more than you've won. So he might find some tricks, but he's getting old, man. It might be time to just call it good and hang out with Miss Terry, on the weekends. So if you ask me, I'm willing to call it cooked, but again, it's Nick Saban. So
Yeah, I think about the game last year and how, like, if maybe Quinn didn't get hurt, we almost would have probably saw the same thing as this year. And I know that Alabama team no longer has like Bryce Young or whatever, so I think that's going to be the biggest thing is just not having that generation of QB. You talk about empires falling. I'm still waiting and hopefully watching that Ohio State empire fall. But you're right, though, because everything has to eventually come to an end. And ever since this NIL kicked all back up, it's kind of like Alabama is the past of pre-NIL and had their win and had their advantages. And when you take those advantages away they've had all those years, they've kind of been exposed. But it's Alabama. So I'm not counting them out yet. I think they're, Nick's probably going to have them real worked up rest of the season, especially for starting off like that, So, we'll see. But it's definitely the ending of Saban's run as, this god of college football. But, I'm ready.
Yeah, I think it's NIL and then better coaching too, right? Like, I think it's like you've seen it across the board. Like, all right, Nick Saban's cool, but you're seeing more of these like prolific quarterbacks say, "I want to go play out in LA for Lincoln Riley or Chip Kelly," or you're seeing receivers, want to go play for Ohio State because of the quarterbacks that they've had, or you've seen 5-star recruits who want to go play for Jim Harbaugh or want to go play for Mike Brown or Mario Cristobal or Jimbo Fisher or whatever. And so when you add NIL on top of that, Deion Sanders, like you add NIL on top of the fact that there are more good coaches at more schools, then going to the days where you're going to have like a bunch of 5 stars, um, all over the field go to Alabama. Like it's a little bit different now because there's more options. Um, I think that um, the biggest and most probably surprising development of this Alabama thing is like they were they had a good run of like just having like great quarterbacks, with their program, and we all know what happened with the Drake May situation for Alabama. They would have had another one, but um, it seems like it seems like I said, whether it would be more coaches or NIL, like Alabama just hasn't the quarterback well for Alabama just ran dry, uh, and so maybe they are able to address that next year. And we're having a different conversation about Alabama, but for this year, they just all we this is like the year of quarterbacks. It seems like in the NCAA, and Alabama doesn't have one, so or at least not one of the top ones. So it's insane to think about.
Man, they had Tua, Jalen Hurts, and Mac Jones in the same quarterback room at one
Yeah,
time. That's
yeah,
unreal.
yeah. And then Bryce Young after that. Like that run is it was insane. And yeah, like even like Arch Manning picking like Texas over like Alabama or whatever. Like that's I mean, yeah, it's interesting what's happening down there. But yeah, lots of football left though. We'll see what happens with Alabama this year, but definitely not the start they wanted. And so now let's talk about these games. Um, and we're are talking about games, but for the first one, we're gonna get into like obviously a much heavier topic, and of course, something that everyone's talking about in college football. We're gonna talk about Washington at Michigan State. I think we would have picked this game regardless of the news of what's happening with Michigan State's head coach, because Michigan State's 2-0. Washington's obviously a good team. They were eighth ranked in the country. This is, I think, even before the season, this is kind of like was going to be an interesting game. But I want to get everyone's thoughts on the Mel Tucker. I guess the latest is he's being suspended, and there's going to be a hearing in October to see whether, which will kind of like lead to what everyone is expecting is Mel Tucker being fired with cause by Michigan State. Now, just quickly, I'm not going to explain everything, but that with cause is important because Mel Tucker signed a guaranteed contract. So even if he was fired for poor performance or whatever, he would have gotten his full contract, money guaranteed, $80 million or whatever it was. So now he's been involved in a situation where there was alleged sexual harassment, and so now go leading up to this hearing. Obviously, there's three sort of sides to the story, or three sides to the situation, which is Michigan State, Brenda Tracy, which is the accuser that came out, and Mel Tucker. And Mel Tucker obviously is trying to defend his side, and because he wants his money and he wants to, um, he's trying to protect the image, all that. We get it. And so this is just a really big mess, and it's unfortunate on a lot of ways. It's unfortunate that this is happening at Michigan State with their history, and so Lexi, I'll let you get the first word on this. Like, tell me your thoughts on the situation, um, and obviously this is a big effect on the team,
Yeah.
moving forward. But yeah, just share your thoughts.
Yeah, it's really unfortunate, I think I'm going to hold off on like all the judgment of like the sexual assault. 'Cause I think just the case itself of, doing this when you were in the position that you were, and still concocting this relationship, whether it be consensual or not, just was so irresponsible. These players, this university has gone through a lot of this, very bad press and things they've been through. So the student athletes, the students, the alums, the fans, they don't deserve to go through this. So it just kind of took to me that Mel didn't give a shit about that. Now, I'm not going to say that maybe whatever she's saying is true, whatever. I'm just saying on the point of him having a relationship with this woman was not what a leader of these young men and someone who's paid $95 million over the course of 10 years should have been doing. So, it sucks. It sucks for these kids. Yeah, they're my rival, but like they work hard all off season. They've had that stuff that happened last year with the tunnel. So they're trying to re-image themselves, and it's just, they can't catch a break, so I hope that they can get it worked out. I don't think Mel should come back regardless if this sexual assault thing is true or not, just because you can't be doing that. You can't be making those type of decisions and that behavior as someone who's in charge of this football team at a distinguished university. You just can't do it. So it's very unfortunate, but I hope that clears up soon for them.
And I think I just want to. I'll let Bobby go real quick, but I just want to say whether or not the relationship or the I guess the incident that occurred that led to the accusations was consensual or not, I think there is still a problem because Mel Tucker's a married man, right? So it's like even if you take out the problematic issue of the alleged sexual assault or whatever, um, that's still not a great look for a coach to be married and have this inappropriate relationship with someone who is being paid to uh, come to the school and talk to young men about the very important issue of sexual assault. So like in a lot of ways, it's just like from the perspective of like Mo Tucker, it's just like very bad decision making and unfortunate timing as well. But Bobby, go ahead.
Yeah. I mean, obviously, it's an incredibly messy and delicate situation, as Lexi mentioned, especially at Michigan State, where just unspeakably bad things have happened in recent memory, and this just brings up a lot of bad things for sure. But overall, first of all, first instinct should always be believe the accuser, and then let justice play out. You don't want to jump to conclusions or anything, but at the same time, let's just assume that we're going with Mel Tucker's story here. It's still pretty bad to do that with a university vendor. I know in some senses this is just his personal business, but you're representing Michigan State. You have to hold yourself to a higher standard across the board. And look, I don't want to make it about the money, but let's be honest. The man has a contract extension that is significantly larger than, I believe. Let's just say he's doing great. None of this happened. I think a lot of Michigan State fans would want that contract extension to be wiped away. You don't have to pay it. That would be great for them because he's underperforming on the field. He's underperforming in recruiting, and you're just giving him ammo because even though it isn't, let's just say it isn't sexual harassment, it's still embarrassing to the university. You're still not, operating as you should as the head of a leader of men in a very public, very, very visible role at the university. Football programs, whether it's right or not, for the most part, are the most public things about a university. People know and define schools by their football programs, and to have your head coach do something like that isn't a good look. And disgustingly enough, I think if he were winning, I think the boosters would be trying to skate over this, but he's not, and they're trying to get him out. Which that is something for another day. But and again, if it is sexual harassment, yeah, get him out of here now. Yeah, it's just a messy, just awful situation, and just really a reminder to everyone to as a professional, always keep it professional. Don't do this. Don't cross that boundary. It never ends well. So yeah, no, um, not good, not good at all.
Yeah, yeah, it's a tough situation, and it it's unfortunate because it calls into question like you mentioned, Bobby. Some of the motives, like money, and then like again, Michigan State's history with the stuff is not great. So it's just like another. If you're a Michigan State fan, it's just like, all right, what else like can go wrong? It's just like a lot of. It's an unfortunate situation for um, Brendan Tracy, and again, like the irony of that situation occurring as you're trying to spread a message that people need to hear. Now there's a big distraction and everything that goes with that. So um, let's fast forward, I guess, assuming for the purposes of this conversation that um, we know that Mel Tucker is suspended without pay. Let's say he's fired after the hearing. Um, who do you guys think would be a good fit um, as their next head coach at Michigan State? I mean, um, I think with this situation, you have to consider not only X's and O's, but also somebody who can change the culture there, because that obviously need a cultural reset at Michigan State. So, who do you guys think would be a good candidate to replace Mel Tucker?
Lexi,
Oh,
you're
you're on
muted.
mute, Lexi.
So I don't know if they're going to go external with this. I mean, this seems like a pretty like personal thing, like we said, with Mel. And I think that they're going to try to keep things as close knit with this because the culture that they have built. I mean, you can see the way the guy's been playing this year for him, regardless, have been good. So I think, especially this season, they're not going to touch anything. They brought back D'Antonio, um, you know, to help out, and they did an interim hire within. So I think they're going to see how this season goes. But I think they're going to be very, very careful this time and kind of run as many background checks on whoever. But I think they're going to keep it internal as long as things go well this season. Now, if they don't, I have no idea who would go there, especially given everything it's been through. You've seen how the board treats you if something kind of goes way wrong or whatever. I don't know. It's just it's a mess. So I don't know who's willing to go over there that wouldn't already be internal.
Yeah, so I think Michigan State, regardless, is a pretty good job if you look at it. And while yeah, everything with Tucker is a little bit complicated. Um, there, I don't. I guess there's trouble outside. I apologize for the. I don't know. I have to go jump in a, I don't know, phone booth, switch over my superhero gear and go fight crime. But no, my thing is, it's a pretty solid university, I would say, from an outside perspective. I'm not in the Great Lakes bubble that it seems like everybody in Multiplicity Media is in, mostly, but it's a university where you can find stability if you're good, just like a Tom Izzo. Look at Mark D'Antonio. And I think there are two names for the job that I think would be great. Both are in Kansas. And I'm going to start with Lance Leipold, who has been an excellent force. Everywhere he goes, he wins. Green Bay, I believe Green Bay Whitewater, he was excellent at. University of Buffalo turned that around, made them excellent. And then he takes on Kansas, the toughest of all projects possible, and makes them a legitimately really good, really fun team, brings them back from the death. Oh, I think Leipold would be a great fit. Midwestern guy, really gets the region, I feel like. I think he'd be a great fit. And then second, I think this would be a little bit trickier because I think this guy's really ingrained where he's at. Chris Kleiman out of Kansas State, who obviously built a dynasty at North Dakota State. They were finally able to pull him out of that, put him in Manhattan, Kansas, and he has things rolling. Took him a little bit of time, but he's developed a great system that I also think would actually work pretty well in the Big Ten as well. In that he just kind of fits that gritty, hardworking mold that you really want and really can recruit too. So I think either of those guys would have massive amounts of success at Michigan State. Both seem like really, really solid fits. And I mean, then you could go with maybe a Mike Elko out of Duke. Those are just ones off the top of my mind um, in terms of guys who can fill in next year. So
Yeah, I think I thought about Mike Elko as well. I think at Duke, there's a ceiling like to how good you can be there. Um, but he just got there, so maybe 2 years and now feels kind of soon. Maybe he sticks around for a little bit longer. Um, my other thought was this would kind of be out of left field, and I don't know if Michigan State would be his like preference because like of the way he is. But I mean, Chip Kelly, like to me, there may not be enough freedom there, but I feel like, and I know they just got a young quarterback at UCLA, but I mean, maybe he figures he doesn't want to compete for LA kids, with USC. You know, I think there's probably a ceiling as well for what UCLA can be. The Pac-12. I know they're about to go to the Big Ten, so yeah, you're about to be a Big Ten coach anyway. Like, why not go to a school where there's a little bit better infrastructure in that conference? Yeah, Bobby, go ahead.
I mean, here's my thing. If you want to recruit kids to play in the Big Ten, recruit the kids to play in the Big Ten and then say, hey, you can, all your parents, all of them can still travel in this region. You can still see you play. You get to live in Los Angeles. That
Yeah,
right there is a pretty big boost. And UCLA is a really, really excellent school as well academically. So
yeah,
I'm just saying, Big Ten teams are gonna have themselves a hell of a time trying to recruit, but we'll see how it goes.
yeah, yeah, yeah. We'll see for sure. All right. So game prediction. Um, I got Washington. I just feel like the line is at 16 in favor of Washington. Over under 58. That game's going to be at 5 Eastern. Um, yeah, I like Washington. I'm not going to take the minus 16. Like I feel like even if nothing was happening and everything was fine, like Mo Tucker was still coaching. Like I feel like that's a big number for me. I get Washington has a lot of talent. Penix always plays well against Michigan State. Um, but 16 is big for me, so I'm just taking Washington like straight up. Lexi, what about you?
Yeah, I'm in the same boat, especially because they brought Mark D'Antonio back. So I swear to God, if there's one thing that guy can do, is it doesn't matter situation. He's gonna make sure those guys will fight to the end. It drives me freaking nuts. So, yeah, I got Washington here, but Michigan State's gonna fight till the death, and I think it'll probably be a lot closer than what people think.
Yeah.
Okay, so I've been away from kind of Twitter on this end for a little bit today. Is he like the interim head coach for this game, or is he just like around the program
No, they brought him back as an analyst.
as an
They did
analyst?
that.
Okay,
They did that. I can't remember his name. Harlan or whatever they brought, or I can't remember his name, but they promoted him to be interim head coach, and then they brought D'Antonio on as an offensive analyst. So he is going to have
gotcha.
a headset and everything.
Well, here's my thing. If D'Antonio could talk to the players, which he can't as an offensive analyst technically, I would have. I was so ready to switch my pick, but I think just with everything going on, and how good Washington is, I'm gonna go with the Huskies on this one. I'll take a minus 16. Um, I think Michigan State will fight hard. I think they'll start like fired up, but I ultimately just think Michigan or Washington's talent is just too good. I think they pull away and get not only the win but the cover.
Yeah. Yeah. Like I said, yeah.
Penix is
No.
going to go off. I mean, regardless.
Yeah.
So their defense has got to play poised if they don't want it to run away. But it'll be a good test to see if they're better than like they said they were. So.
Yeah, it'll be an interesting game. All right, let's move on to the next game in our lineup. Uh, Again, not a lot of great stuff to choose from, but we got another Big Ten matchup, Big Ten versus ACC with Minnesota, who was 2-0 after big win over Nebraska, and then they beat Eastern Michigan, I believe it was, en route to Chapel Hill to play UNC, who's ranked 20. UNC is favored by 7.5. Over under 49. Um, Minnesota's defense has been stout. This is a team that is always feisty. PJ Fleck obviously doing some good things over there. I think these are like teams that are sort of like polar opposites. And even with UNC, we don't really know who they really are because they played great defense in the first game against South Carolina. Um, and not so much against App State, who kind of did the offenses of South Carolina App State were completely different. But anyway, kind of two different sides of the coin here. Um, so my question is, which side has the advantage? The offense of UNC or the defense of the Minnesota Gophers?
I'll let you go first, Bobby.
Yeah, this is no offense to your Tar Heels. This is a gross game. It's a gross week of college football. There's not a lot of good on here. Man, I don't know, because Minnesota looked choppy at times last week against, I believe, Eastern Michigan, and UNC was pushed to the brink by Ole App State. Shout my guy Yosef, always out there making it interesting for everybody. Um, I'm going to side with UNC's offense here, especially at home in Chapel Hill. I am not convinced by Minnesota, especially after kind of seeing what Nebraska is. And no shade to Colorado. They put on a great performance last Saturday, but I just don't think Nebraska's that great. Tough call, just a crapshoot. But I'm going to ride with the home team, the hot hand. I think UNC at home will get the offense rolling and get a win here.
Yeah, PJ Fleck has not impressed me this season for me to say that they can go into Chapel Hill and beat North Carolina, especially with Drake May. The walk-off field goal against North Nebraska, beating Eastern, a MAC team at 25-6 at home, it just still isn't enough for me. So I'm going to side with Drake May in that offense. I do think that, the defense will probably give them a little bit of heckling, but this offense is just going to be too powerful, and Drake May is a great quarterback, so they're going to be struggling heavily with it.
Yeah, everyone in like UNC land, not everyone. I'm sorry. UNC land is kind of split. There's folks that are very much complaining about, oh, Drake May's not putting up numbers. He's not looking like a Heisman candidate. Yada yada yada. And there's other people on the side of that are saying like, wait a minute, Chip Lindsey is a very different offensive coordinator than Phil Longo, and UNC is doing what they did very poorly last year, which is run the ball. They are doing a great job at running the ball, and Drake May is just doing he's basically like playing like himself, not making costly mistakes, just being efficient, and everyone's sort of frustrated by the lack of explosion and 400, 500-yard games we're seeing from like Caleb Williams and Shedeur Sanders. Excuse me. I'm on the side of like I'd rather get the wins. I'd rather do what's working, which is having a balanced offense. And so against a defense like Minnesota, like Bobby said, if it's an ugly ground and pound game where both sides rush for like 300 yards and the end of the score is like 17-3 or whatever, like I'm happy as long as UNC goes into the next week with a W. And so for me, I believe in the run game. I like what they've been doing. I think all Drake May has to do is be himself, make plays when it counts, and the UNC will continue to win. And so I'm going to give the edge to the offense. But what I'm looking for is physicality in the trenches on both sides of the ball. And what's really going to be important is UNC being able to stop the run game of Minnesota and get them off the field and give Drake May more possessions, which will lead to good results because you give a great quarterback a lot of possessions, they're going to figure it out. We saw this with Nebraska, Colorado last week. Like the first couple quarters were rough. Neither team could really do anything offensively, and then Nebraska was just kept giving Colorado the ball, and eventually Shedeur Sanders made enough plays, and Colorado ended up blowing them out. So I feel like you can see something similar if North Carolina's defense steps up this week. Yeah, so I guess we kind of already talked about keys to victory for both teams and what everyone said. I got North Carolina. Bobby said North Carolina. I think we're all taking North Carolina. No need to really hash it out. I mean, -7.5 is kind of tempting, but I'm just going to pick UNC straight up. I hate talking spreads when it comes to UNC games. It just gives me a headache. Because, yeah. But anyway, we all got UNC. Should be an interesting game. Okay, to the NFL. The Chiefs were upset in their opening game against the Detroit Lions. And what do they get as a reward? Week 2 against another cat team in their place. The Chiefs will go to play the Jaguars, and Trevor Lawrence, who is starting to put games together and look like the Trevor Lawrence we all thought would be an NFL superstar. He looked good against the Colts, although that was a tough game. And so the Chiefs are favorite in Jacksonville by 3. Over-under is 51. It looks like Travis Kelce will play, although the news about Travis Kelce has been a lot about him potentially dating Taylor Swift. So, so that is the Travis Kelce updates that we've been getting. But as of today, it looks like he'll play in that game, and they're gonna need him based on what we saw last week against the Lions. So keys to victory, I'll give you the Chiefs, Lexi.
I mean, getting Travis Kelce back and signing and getting that deal with Chris Jones so you can get your best defender back. That's literally that's it for them.
They did do that. They got Chris Jones.
Yeah, so yeah. Those are the two things that, and I'm not going to say I think we beat them anyway last week. I'll go on and say it, but they need those guys on both sides of the ball. So that alone, and just being pissed off of like their banner night being ruined by the Detroit Lions of all teams, Mahomes is going in with a vengeance. Now, I think Trevor and them are going to put up a good fight. So I'll love to hear what Bobby says about them.
Yeah, no, I think for the Jags, what they have to do, make life hell on the receivers, make them feel footsteps. As we saw from KC last week, they were not very good. A lot of drops, a lot of just kind of sloppiness. It looks like they reloaded with a bunch of blanks, unfortunately, because it was just not firing the way it has in the past. So, yeah, if they can put a lot of pressure, even if they have Kelce back, fresh off that injury, you start to get a little skittish about getting hurt. Kelce's never missed a game due to injury before, so maybe that messes with the psyche a bit. So if you're the Jags defensively, you got to stay tight, got to make those wide receivers feel, hear those footsteps. And I think if you do that, it all unravels passing game-wise for the Chiefs.
This is a huge game for both teams because if any team can survive 0-2, it's the Chiefs. So the Chiefs being 0-2 would not be ideal, but it's not a death sentence either. For the Jaguars, I think if you beat the Chiefs, you want to beat the Chiefs at home because it gives you confidence for the rest of the season and going into the playoffs. If you see the Chiefs, it's like, all right, you're not going to be necessarily afraid of them in that situation because you've been able to beat them before. So I think this is a critical game for both teams. I think my prediction is Kansas City though, because I just it's one of those things where sometimes I hate these arguments, but for certain players and coaches, you have to just give it to them. Like I can't imagine a Patrick Mahomes, Andy Reid team losing twice in a row. Now, if they don't have Travis Kelsey, then yeah, that's a lot easier to picture because of the receivers were not good on Thursday night. But if Travis Kelsey is playing at full speed and can go, like I feel like Andy Reid is too good of a coach. Patrick Mahomes is too good of a quarterback for them not to figure out how to pull out a win in Jacksonville. And keep in mind, Jacksonville beat the Colts, but it wasn't like a resounding victory. The Colts had a chance at the end to win that game. So they have to feel lucky to be 1-0 going into this game. And yeah, I feel like the Chiefs like can get it done. Predictions. Oh, Lexi's on mute.
I'll roll with I'll go first.
Yeah.
I really like Jacksonville to keep this thing going. So give me Duval +3.
I'm taking Kansas City here. I can't see Pat Mahomes starting 0-2 going into this season. So I mean, as long as Kelsey's back, but he does have Chris Jones back on defense, so it'll be a good game. But Kansas City takes it.
Yeah, Chris Jones being back is huge too for that pass rush. Getting pressure on Trevor Lawrence, like that's going to be. I mean, the pass rush was decent. It was decent against Detroit, but Chris Jones obviously makes a huge difference for that team. Okay, oops, sorry. Last game we're going to dive into is Ravens at Bengals. Bengals are favored by 3.5. Over under is 46.5. We already kind of talked about how the Bengals laid an egg in Week 1 against the Browns. The Ravens beat the Texans, but didn't look very good in that game either. Didn't really see. I mean, as a Lamar Jackson fantasy owner, he could have played a lot better, just based on the numbers. But both quarterbacks looking to kind of bounce back, have some better performances. The Ravens are 1-0, so their backs aren't against the wall. The Bengals' backs are definitely against the wall at 0-1. But like the Chiefs, I feel like the Bengals could survive an 0-2 start, but obviously not ideal. But moving forward, I mean, this is sort of like Week 1 overreactions because all we have to go on is one game. But which team do you trust moving forward, the Ravens or the Bengals?
I mean, if we're just basing off of Week 1, I'm saying the Ravens because oh my gosh, Joey B, what are you doing, buddy? You got the bag and bounce. Like it's just it's terrible. But I hope they turn it around. But yeah, if we're just basing it off that, I'm definitely going with John Harbaugh and the Ravens in this one.
I mean, last week kind of showcased everything in a way. Both Burrow and Lamar Jackson had awful games. One looked better than one team actually functioned and looked good. The other was so bad that they had to pull Burrow because the game was out of hand. So I'm kind of trending towards the Ravens here. I think Burrow, I'm not out on Burrow. I think he bounces back. But if I had to pick one team that works better as a team, I'm going to go with Baltimore.
Yeah, Baltimore it's frustrating because, they got the J.K. Dobbins injury. He's out for the season. Running backs are hard to come by. I don't think I think they're probably going to they're not going to go out and find a free agent. They're probably going to keep the running backs they have on the roster. Like, that's a huge blow. And then, like, I just need to see more from the Ravens in the passing game. Like, again, this is the Texans. Maybe their Texans defense is better this year than people think, but the Ravens were just sloppy. I think OBJ got like 2 catches, and this is a year where everyone was like hyping him up and saying OBJ is going to be back to what we're used to seeing from him. So yeah, I mean the Ravens' offense doesn't really give me any confidence, but like you guys said, the Bengals absolutely looked atrocious against the Browns. So I'm going to say the Bengals because I feel like the Browns are going to be better this year than people think. and the defense especially is going to be really good. The Ravens to me just don't look the part offensively, and at the end of the day, I trust like Joe Burrow, Jamar Chase, Joe Mixon over Lamar Jackson and OBJ and whatever running back they have. So although Zay Flowers looked really good, so I don't know. I'm gonna side with the Bengals on this one. Um, okay, uh, let's get into keys to victory for both teams. Um, I don't know if anyone has like a specific like key for the Bengals. I think like for me, I would just say Joe Burrow just has to uh, be Joe Burrow and not whatever, not Macaulay Culkin. like I don't know.
Not even the
Play,
Macaulay Culkin like owning the burglars, the one like getting kidnapped.
yeah,
It was
be
bad.
more Joe Burrow and less Richie Rich, please. Like,
Yeah.
this is yeah, I think they got to get on track. I think it's a prideful team. Like, they know what's at stake. I feel like they're gonna bounce back, but yeah, like Joe Burrow's got to be himself. Play with confidence. That offensive line has to protect, obviously. What about for the Ravens? Anybody can go.
It's just trying to. You're gonna have to replace J.K. out there, all
Yeah,
year. But really, it's just having faith in Lamar and the chemistry that he's gonna have with these wide receivers. So I think like he did kind of have a little bit of a dud of a game last weekend, but this season, and stood by that he's gonna show out. He got his bag on his own. He's ready to go. So. Um, it's just about him having poise and being a better quarterback than Joe Burrow has been.
yeah,
Yeah, I mean, it comes down to that. Just actually tie that offense together. Whichever offense gets it together, gets it figured out, that's the one that wins, I think.
yeah,
Race to the
100%.
finish line.
Yeah, 100%. All right, I've got Bengals minus 3.5. I think good teams that get embarrassed, or even not even just good teams, but like decent teams that get embarrassed, um, usually bounce back the week after. Like, that's kind of my philosophy. The NFL just has too many prideful players that I don't think they're going to, lose to a division opponent at home after the game they put up against the Cleveland Browns. And so I'm taking the Bengals, and I will take the points minus 3.5. Um, I feel like they're going to come out with just so much energy, and it could be a track meet on offense, but I like the Bengals to cover and to bounce back from that embarrassing loss in Week 1.
Yeah, likewise. I also like Cincy minus 3.5. They're a good team, a prideful team. Prideful, good teams don't stay down for long. At
Yeah.
home, I think it'll be popping for them. Give me Bengals minus 3.5.
Taking the Ravens. Got my guy Lamar. We're running with it all season.
Hey, I hope Lamar has a better fantasy game than he had for me Week 1. Sam Howell, I have Sam Howell on my bench. Sam Howell had more points uh, by 10 than Lamar had.
It was such a weird week 1,
it
minus my
was.
win, minus my team's win. Okay, it was a weird week
Oh,
1,
God.
but I think it's gonna really take off this weekend. I think with a lot of teams, so we'll see some better matchups.
Yeah, I think the first couple of weeks are always weird because like a lot of teams don't play their starters in preseason at all. So it takes
Mm-hmm.
time for teams to get in rhythm, and I think preseason is kind of underrated as a way to get offenses sort of like just just some cohesion. You heard the Eagles coach say like he might think about having his starters play a couple drives next year. So we'll see. The first couple weeks are always really weird. All right, um, those are the games we are diving into. I introduced a new segment to the show because I feel like talking about 4 games is great, but there's obviously more games out there. So just want to get your rapid fire picks We didn't prepare these before the show, so these are just quick, like off the top of your head. You don't have to say covers or anything like that. Just pick the game straight up. So here's the games that I've included in the docket for people that are watching that are fans of other teams that just want to know what we think about the other games. Let's get into it. First game, South Carolina at Georgia. Obviously, a big game. This is Georgia's like first real test. Might be one of the only ones on their schedule. South Carolina, obviously, they lost to UNC week one. They beat up on Furman last week. This is their chances to show like where they are against a obviously dominant opponent in Georgia. So South Carolina and Georgia, who you guys got?
Georgia.
Yeah, give me the dogs between the hedges. Too good for South Carolina.
Yeah, this would be tasty. This would be a tasty South Carolina pick if it was in Columbia, but in Athens, give me Georgia all the way.
And they got destroyed in Columbia last year too. So
yeah, that's true.
Yes.
All right, backyard brawl, Pitt at West Virginia. I don't mean to be an ACC homer. I like Pitt's defense. I don't know anything about West Virginia to be honest, but I'm taking Pitt to go on the road to win this game.
I got Pitt.
both of these teams are absolute ass, if I'm being honest. Neil Brown has a job for some reason, and I don't think he has a lot of joy the rest of this year. I think it ends with him getting fired. Maybe in the middle he gets fired, but he has one last moment of glory. Pitt loses to West Virginia in the backyard brawl in the return trip to Morgantown. Give me the Mountaineers.
All right. To Vikings at Eagles in the NFL. This probably, if you were saying before the season, like what are some potential NFC Championship previews, this might be one of them. The Vikings didn't look like a NFC Championship contender against the Buccaneers whatsoever, but still a team that people maybe expect to win, to be a playoff contender in the Vikings. Going to Philadelphia, who had a tough game against the Patriots. So, where you guys leaning on for this one? Vikings going to Philadelphia. I'm picking I like the Eagles. I just feel like the Vikings were just very much so like out of rhythm against the Buccaneers. The Eagles probably want to looked weird too, but I feel like I just trust the Eagles a little bit more. I think Justin Jefferson's going to have a good game, but I think the Vikings are just missing something. I can't put my finger on it right now, but I like Philadelphia.
Look, with how bad Minnesota looked on Sunday, that's a performance that needs a bounce back game. But how much worse does it get for a bounce back game on a short week, a trip to Philadelphia to take on this Eagles team? Whew, yeah. They're going to get whooped. Give me the Eagles big here.
Yeah, I even said last year that Vikings were one of the most fraudulent teams of all time, and they won so many games by being like luck, but off of pure luck. So this ends this season, and yeah, they're gonna get probably wiped the floor with the Eagles. Just too much going on at Eagles. I have them in the Super Bowl, so yeah, Eagles all day.
All right, and the last rapid fire pick we're going to go with is 49ers at Rams. A good game because the Niners and Brock Purdy absolutely spanked the Steelers. That was a crazy game. And then the Rams, like, shocked the world by beating Seattle. Everyone thought Seattle might be a contender in the NFC. The Rams were going to be, a team that loses a lot of games. And the Rams came out and said, hey, like, we're here and we're still the Rams. So this game is a lot more interesting. I mean, I hear Deion's voice in the back of my head telling me that there'll be 49ers fans flooded at SoFi. So I don't really call this a home game for the Rams. I think the Niners are legit, like, Super Bowl contenders. Brock Purdy, I think, continues to impress. I like the Niners in this game.
The Niners look dominant. I'll say, like, they're like a team that I would be nervous going up against, especially right now, because they look hot. Like, Brock Purdy looks incredible. You got Christian McCaffrey just went off. Finally good to see him kind of just taking off there. So they're dangerous. And as much as the Rams shocked or whatever, it's not going to be pretty. I think 49ers win this easily.
Look, there are two tiers of teams that are good. There are the teams that are good and just want to beat you, and there are the teams that want to flat out embarrass you. To me, I think the 49ers, they look like a team that wants to embarrass every team on their schedule. That performance this Sunday was immaculate, impressive. I think they are on an absolute warpath this season. Give me the Niners at I guess Levi's Stadium South. So yeah.
Levi Stadium, 6 hours away.
I almost called it Candlestick South, but that's been that stadium's been gone for like 15 years.
Yeah. All right, those are the rapid picks. Now let's get to lock of the week, folks. 2 weeks of lock of the week, and our scoreboard sit at 0 between me, Bobby, and Lexi. Wow. I had the Panthers plus 3.5, and I might have been okay if Bryce Young did not throw 2 interceptions, and I think either it was him or Miles Sanders also fumble. Yeah, you're not gonna. The Falcons are terrible. I'm telling you guys right now. Desmond Ridder looks terrible, but you're not gonna win any game if you give up 3 turnovers and you don't get any turnovers. You get any turnovers yourself. So the Panthers did lose that game and also did not cover the plus 3.5 that the Falcons were favored by. Took an L there. Bobby had the Bills at minus 2.5. We all saw the game last night. That did not come to fruition. Probably could have, but
they would have won if I didn't pick them. They would have won if I didn't pick them. I swear. Everything was set up so perfectly. That's the only reason they lost is because I picked them.
And to be fair, my over was obviously contingent on Aaron Rodgers.
It was.
I think it would have definitely been a lot closer had he still been on the field. So.
Yeah. The over did not hit. Needless to say, too many Josh Allen interceptions. Our picks, our locks went to hell. So we are still at 0 on the scoreboard. But coming back with a vengeance for this week, lock of the week. I keep going with picks that I like instead of picks that I love. And so this week, I'm sticking with the pick that I love for my lock of the week. Again, not messing with the spread because it's too big and there's too many variables involved. But I'm taking Washington straight up to beat Michigan State. I think it happens. Michigan State's got too much going on. I know they're prideful, but Washington's got a lot to play for. Offense is great. Again, Penix is money against Michigan State. I'm taking Washington to go into East Lansing and win the game straight up. That's my lock of the week.
Okay, quick question. A little housekeeping issue. So do the rapid fire picks count as the 2 points, or would they be a 1 point?
No, the rapid fire picks are still 1 points. Yeah.
Darn, because I was so excited to go with the Eagles there. Yeah, no, we're rolling with Jacksonville plus 3 here. I know that's a little risky, not very locky, but I don't know. I'm feeling the vibes.
I'm going to go with UNC. I'm not taking any kind of points whatsoever, but I think that they outlast Minnesota in this matchup. So give me them against PJ Fleck's defense.
All right. There you have it. We'll hopefully have some better luck at the end of the week.
Fingers crossed.
Hopefully somebody has some points on the board to show for it. But yes, all right. I'm taking Washington. Bobby's got Jacksonville plus 3. Lexi's got the North Carolina Tar Heels for lock of the week this week. I hope to God at least Lexi is right. I don't care if I lose mine. Like that's the one that needs to hit for sure. But another good week of content and wishing another good week of football to come. No more injuries. Let's hopefully none of those. We don't like those at all here on the Weekenders. But thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you next week right here on YouTube.
See ya.